Hey everyone, so this is Daniel from the Black Tower podcast, and before we actually get into the meat and potatoes of what we're talking about this week, I do want to let everybody know that unfortunately Andrew was not able to make it to recording with us this week, so he will not be present on this episode. It will just be Josh and I. If that's a deal breaker for you, then you might want to turn off now, and you can tune in next week when he'll be with us. If not, then I didn't want anybody to just wonder without knowing that, as I said, Andrew was feeling a little sick this week and could not record with us. So thank you for listening, and enjoy this week's episode of the Black Tower podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another beautiful edition of the Black Tower podcast. We join you tonight in your respective, cars if you're commuting, or your respective chores and regular works if you're listening to us on your earbuds. We join you wherever you are to bring you the goodness of all things Wheel of Time. We have numerous subjects that we cover, as you are well aware of, and tonight is no exception. However, I feel like, given the criteria surrounding tonight's subject, I should defer to my good friend Daniel, who needs to maybe drop some spoiler warnings before I get into the major subject of the podcast tonight. So, without further ado, I am Josh, giving you this intro, and I will now turn the time over to my good friend Daniel,
Indeed.
who will give you the spoiler warning.
Thank you very much, Josh. As stated, I am Daniel, and today we are definitely going to be talking about some things that are going to span the entire series. The biggest and most intense spoiler here is going to be for effectively
the entire series.
Books 3 and 4. That's when you really discover what is going on that makes our subject important. But again, all of the books past book 3 definitely have some solid spoilers, and we will be going all the way from when certain people discover certain talents and all the way through the last battle. So if you have not finished the series yet, you definitely want to. If you have not made it to book 3 yet, 100% turn this off and finish at least minimum up to book 5. That is when you will really have a good idea of what we're talking about, even if you won't get all of the ins and outs. But if you actually want to get all of the nuances, you're definitely going to have to read 14 books.
You really need to, guys, because tonight we are discussing Matrim Cawthon.
The most impressive of all of the Cawthons.
Really? I mean, you're not lying. I mean, even Bode, who, learns to channel, like, she ain't got nothing on Matt. This guy quickly became one of my favorite characters. I mean, quickly. I absolutely love Matt. One of the things I love about the Wheel of Time series is the dynamic between Matt, Rand, and Perrin. Like, that's such a powerful story.
Oh, yeah.
Just how different those guys are. All three of them thrown into situations that they know nothing about and that they want no part in. And the different ways they handle situations. And even to the end of the series, they're all sitting there going, God, I wish Matt were here right now. He always knew how to talk to women. I wish Perrin were here. Perrin always knows what to do.
Yep.
They're a better trio of heroes you cannot have. It doesn't exist. And you may be asking yourself, why are we discussing Matt Cawthon as the as one of the 5 great captains? Well, then you would be someone who didn't listen to our spoiler warning and stop right now, turn it off, and go.
Yep.
Go. Go. I'm not playing.
Indeed.
Because Matt, he does some amazing things. So he first kind of starts down this path of one of the great generals in Shadar Logoth, right?
Indeed.
They're in there hiding from Shadow Spawn, and they find a couple of they find a treasure room, and Moraine's like, okay guys, don't touch anything in here. Matt, being the rogue, the roguish scamp he is, he's like, no, Aes Sedai is gonna tell me what to do. We're surrounded by a Shadow Spawn. I see a nice little dagger here. I'm gonna grab it. I'm gonna grab this dagger and I'm gonna take it, and it's gonna be awesome. And so he does. He grabs a dagger, he takes it, and everybody's going. And from then on, things kind of, you get sort of a Smeagol vibe where he's like, he starts to have some issues, and he starts to have some problems with that. And well, you come to find out that the dagger has been tainted,
indeed,
by the evil of Shadar Logoth, and it was a place that decided that in order to fight the Shadow Spawn and defeat the Shadow, they had to become worse than the Shadow, because logic and stuff. And as a result, they kicked off some type of ancient evil that just, no, it was not good. It was not a good situation. And so through a series of events, Matt, spirals deeper and deeper and deeper into this evil, into the clutches of this evil. And as he continues on, it becomes very apparent that this is threatening his life. This is getting to the point where his life is in danger, and this is not okay. So they finally, and by the way, if I'm kind of trying to just give a brief build up to this. So if I miss anything that you think is important, interrupt me.
No worries.
But we finally get to, through a series of events, we get to the tower, and Matt is able to be healed by the Aes Sedai, and his connection to this knife severed. And it's pretty cool little situation, pretty cool scenario, pretty cool scene. But when he wakes up, he has these holes in his memory. He doesn't remember things.
Correct.
But he also has other memories.
No, he doesn't.
Not yet. He doesn't. No, that's not yet. Not yet.
Yes, he
that's
wakes
right.
up with these holes in his memory because there are a number of times that, again, very or at least somewhat akin to the Smeagol Gollum thing that you made a moment ago. It's basically like he's living these two lives. Matt Cawthon is kind of living and losing pieces of time and life and everything like that, as I guess you could kind of say Mashadar or Mordeth or whatever the entity is that is tainting Shadar Logoth, right, is basically living his life through his body. And so Matt, once that part is severed, is missing chunks of time and is missing experiences that people tell him he had, but he never really did. And it's not until he and Rand go to Rhuidean, and he has his meeting in the ter'angreal with the Eelfin, when they refill the gaps in his memory with other lives.
He makes 3 very specific wishes, though. And again, this goes to some very, very important story aspects later on in the book. Correct. Which is why I kind of point this out. And you don't really see it, or you don't really think about it until the end of the series when you go, oh my gosh. But he makes one of the wishes that he makes was he wishes for the holes in his memory to be filled.
Correct.
Well, he didn't specify with what.
Yes.
So the Eelfin were like, okay, here, have these memories. and they fill his head with memories. Well, as a result, he starts to remember things from people that he recognized in like legends
Yep.
that he'd heard. And he goes, "Oh yeah, it's like the time we blah 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 blah." And everybody goes, "Uh, no, that happened 1,000 years ago, and you were not there, and neither were we, you crazy guy." And he's like, "Oh." Or he'll be talking to someone, and all of a sudden everybody will look up at him and be like, Matt?" And he'll be like, "What?" And they'll be like, "You want to say that again in English, please?"
Yep.
And come to find out, he's speaking the old tongue fluently.
Yes. Well, and this is actually where this does become a little bit interesting because, of course, okay. So in The Great Hunt, neither Rand or Matt has been to Roidion yet. That does not happen
Right.
in the second book. Yet, in both The Eye of the World and in The Great Hunt, the first moment is when they are charging the Trollocs. Matrim Cawthon yells out a number of words in the Old Tongue that he does not know.
Yes.
He says, Kayan Kaldazar, or Karayan Kaldazar,
Mm.
Karayan Manetherin, Taishar Manetherin. And that
Yes.
means, glory to the Red Eagle, glory to Manetherin, honor to Manetherin. And he's
Honor to
never
yeah.
heard these words before. This
He
is
doesn't know
100%
what that
not
is.
things he should know. And then, of course, in The Great Hunt, before he has yet gone to Roidion, he blows the Horn of Valir. And these dead heroes come back from the grave down out of down on clouds out of the sky. And they're having a conversation with Matt, and poor Perrin is just standing there, just not understanding anything. Because at some point, they say, "Really? What language are we speaking, Horn Sounder?"
Yes.
And he
Oh gosh.
suddenly realizes that he's been having an entire
Oh.
conversation with Birgitta and Arter Hawkwing that has been in the
In the
Old Tongue
old tongue fluently
fluently.
with no problems. Yes.
And then,
He oh.
and so there is definitely already this suggestion that Matt is absolutely, without a doubt, more sensitive to his past
Mhm.
lives, more, whatever is going on in him is very, very much, those lives are still a part of him. But again, he's still very
Yes.
much Matt Cawthon. He has lived his life for 20 odd years
Yep.
as a single entity, not really being affected by these other lives. But
Yep.
those lines start to blur, and of course they get very, very blurry once he meets the
Mhm.
Eelfin. And at that
Yes.
point, he now has almost fluent recall of his old memories. Now, he does talk about the fact that, especially right at the beginning, he does have a hard time differentiating between his memories and others. And he'll regularly go and meet people that remind him of others that are just sort of pop up memories that happen and whatnot. But
Right.
as far as when he is on the battlefield or when he is making plans, that are tactics based, Matrim Cawthon seems to be able to recall every battle he has ever been in, and therefore what the best option is for whatever
Mhm.
situation he's in.
Oh yeah.
And it's absolutely amazing. One of
I
my
mean,
other
you'd
favorite lines,
imagine.
just going back here for just a moment to his old tongue, is that at some point later on, when, again, huge spoiler warning, Birgitta gets wrenched from the wheels turning
Oh.
out of Tel Iren Riyadh into the real world. Um, she and Matt meet up in Abu Dar, and she and he have an entire conversation at some point in the Old Tongue as well. that he again doesn't really notice, and she has to call him out on it, if you will. And one of my
Right.
favorite parts of that is that she says that he's not even consistent. She specifically says in that conversation that he regularly jumps into like very folksy old tongue from like,
Right.
you know, from one part of the old world to a
Yeah,
very
exactly.
proper old tongue from like, you know, a big city in the old world and whatnot. And that she, of course, is losing her memories, but it hasn't
Right.
really started yet. And so she's still very much fluent in the old tongue and very, you know, knowledgeable about these old places. And so she tells him that he's like jumping back and forth between a number of different accents, but they're all still 100% fluent in the old tongue. And I
Yeah.
am so looking forward to, I really do hope they keep that scene in the the show, and that they have someone a who's good enough to do this, but then also an
Yes.
actress who's uh Birgitta, who can just pull off helping us see those things rather than necessarily
Yes.
needing to say it. I mean, like, she will still need
Right.
to explain what's happening, because everybody will who's watching who doesn't already know will need that primer, because you do need it in the book, because you don't actually hear him saying it. Now, I have confidence that at least by then Barney will be able to pull off a number of different old tongue accents. Um but we will still need that primer from Birgitta to understand that that's not just mistakes Barney's making,
Right.
and that it's actually intentional.
Yep.
Anyway, sorry, you were gonna say something about his memories being filled in.
Well, that as a matter of fact, you were right there with it, because I was going to say that he seems to be in the beginning. He seems to be plagued by these memories, right?
Yes.
Where he's, like you were saying, people call him out. Oh, you're speaking the old tongue, haha. You're funny, and he's like, damn it, and he's just like, this is just so annoying. I don't want to be special. I don't want people to look at me. I want to go back home, and I can't do that because, stuff and things. But the fun part become begins when these people, when they get into these battles and people start to notice that, hey, Matt knows what he's doing. I'm going to stay by him because I've noticed that the people who stay by him don't die. And I kind of want to be one of the people who don't die.
Yep.
And as a matter of fact, I think at one point in time, he's leading a band of people, and he's the soldiers in the ranks are like, yeah, we're following Lord Matt. We're gonna kick some butt today. This is gonna be great. And Matt's up there going, let's see, if I turn left, I can avoid the Shido, and we don't have to engage them. Sweet. Okay, I'm turning left, and he's specifically avoiding them using the memories of previous and past generals
Mm-hmm.
to make sure that the people that are following him survives, because he doesn't want their blood on his
Oh
hands.
yeah.
Um, and so these memories become sort of his life map, where he starts to say, okay, I don't want to do this. I don't want to lead people. I don't want to be a general. But if I'm being thrown in this situation, I'm damn sure going to make damn sure going to make sure that people survive and that people aren't killed
Well,
needlessly.
and that's my favorite part of when he's actually really realizing that this is a thing that's happening to him, because obviously up until this point he's definitely, as you said, been plagued by these memories, and he'll break out into things he shouldn't know just offhand, and people will notice, and he'll, remember someone from a place that makes no sense that he's never been,
Mm-hmm.
and all of
Yeah.
these different things, and he's getting very frustrated, and you can feel
Yes.
it. And then he is trying to leave Kyrian,
Mm-hmm.
and he does not want to be part of the uh the group of people who is going to lay siege to, or not lay siege, the Shido are laying siege to Karian. And
Yes.
Rand is coming up with a number of other Aiel that is going to besiege the Karian and besiegers. Not really besiege them because they're not in the city, but he's going to attack them. He's going to try and
Right.
take them out. And Matt goes, dude, I really don't want to do this. I mean, I know that you have to. And you
Mhm.
very much feel responsible for this. And I'm not even telling you you're wrong. But at the same time, I don't. This is not my fight. This is not something that I want to be involved in. Just, I'm going to go. And Rand goes, okay, you're right.
Peace out,
That
bro.
this is not actually something that is your fight. This is my fight. I have brought these people here. I told them the truth about who they are, and it really royally messed them up. And so now I have to
Yep.
fix my situation. So
Yeah, it's
have
true.
fun,
Yeah.
be safe, get out of here. And Matt tries. He tries his absolute hardest to go and just leave. And of course, every single time he turns around, he ends up in the middle of a fight that he doesn't want to be in. And he's in that moment, in that, day or 2 or 3 of fighting. I don't remember exactly how long it goes on. But he
Yeah.
ends up collecting a ridiculous number of troops because he just can't walk away from them.
I love as he's literally wandering through the forest and there's like a small band. We're looking for Shido, and he's like, "Yeah, join up with us. Yeah, I'll get you out of here, you big dumb idiots."
Right. And he ends up saving a ridiculous number of them, killing and avoiding a large number, but also ending up in skirmishes with a ridiculous number of Shido. And then last and most sort of impressively, Matt, using his good luck, his tactics, and his skill with a quarterstaff, kills Couladin.
Yes.
He's the one who ends up actually killing the leader of the opposing force.
Well, I mean, we've talked a little about Matt's personal fighting prowess prior to this episode as well.
Yes.
And Matt,
he's very good.
Like, they talk about the Two Rivers people being, champion quarterstaff.
Yes.
Well,
the two things that the people in the Two Rivers are really good at are bow and quarterstaff. And Matt is not as good as Rand with a bow, but infinitely better than he is with a quarterstaff.
Exactly. And then at one point in time he gets one with a spearhead on it, and he's like, "Oh, I guess it's kind of like a quarterstaff with a pointy end."
Well, and then of course I also love how at that point when he actually gets the Mashandarai, he already has Matrim Cawthon's wealth of information about how to go ahead and fight with a quarterstaff, and he's already proven that even without a Mashandarai, he can beat shit out of 2 very good swordsmen at the same time when he fights Galad and Gawain in the tower after being healed. And he beats them pretty handily, and he's tired as shit. Like, again, he's so good that he can just beat up on these 2 guys who are being trained by warders, one of which is the best that any of the warders have ever seen before, and one of which, like, very much becomes only slightly seconded to his brother. Maybe not right now, but later.
Yeah.
And he's near death still in some ways and fighting with a very different weapon.
Yes. No, it's fun.
And then you combine that knowledge with the other people's knowledge of how to fight specifically with the Mashandarai, which is quarterstaff with blade on the end. And he's just incredible.
So I will kind of say this really quick, because I know we're doing the 5 great captains.
Correct.
And this is part 6 of the 5 great captains. And my initial thing here was, oh no, we can't have a sixth five great captain. I had like this whole bit that I was going to go into about six five great captains and how that's the next breaking of the world. And then I was like, wait a
We're
minute.
dividing by 0. What is happening right?
Exactly. And then I was like, wait a minute. Pedro Nial is dead. So we still only have five great captains.
Yeah.
There is a little overlap. I think Pedro Nial is alive for a little bit during the time that Matt is starting to come into his amazingness as a general. But as we've discussed, even in the Pedro Nial episode, his glory days are done. He's gone.
Correct.
He needs to retire, and we see that as evidenced by the fact that he gets stabbed. So there's still only five great captains. All is right in Randland.
Well,
and
so
Matt really kind of stepped up to fill the role and need of the fifth great captain and be usher in the new generation of great captains.
Well, so to be fair, okay, I did we talked about this a little bit a while ago, when we were
right.
in this series and whatnot, and it's difficult to tell because they're not very specific on it, but I think that the five great captains are actually just a moniker for the five best people right now. I also don't think that the five great captains is like a specific title necessarily. Like, it's not like they just pick out the five best leaders in the world and give them an award. Like, when like one last one dies, they just pick whoever was number 6, like, now just gets to be one of the five great captains. I don't think it's like a revolving door of people. I think that's just as we are seeing a window into this world. We pop into a point where there are five great captains, and they have actually distinguished themselves to the point where people are incredibly impressed. And there are plenty of other good people and plenty of other great leaders.
Oh, to be sure.
But
absolutely.
definitely I think that Matt comes in as having an incredibly unfair advantage, because of course he's probably got the memories of 100 of what would be considered the ages past great captains.
Oh yeah. Well,
And of course
he's
also
essentially the
think
Avatar.
that needs to be necessarily like a there can only be 5. Like, this doesn't need to be a Highlander situation. It really can just be that when we pop into the story, there are 5 great captains. When we end when we get to the last battle, there are 5 great captains. Now, the fact that Matt has taken Niall's place is not something to sniff at, but at the same time, it's also not necessarily a thing where, once the last battle's over and Bashir is dead and Niall, has been dead for some time,
right.
they don't need to replace those two. They just exist. And whoever,
they're just like, yep.
If 10 people actually just go ahead and elevate themselves to a ridiculous degree on the battlefield, then there are just 10 great captains. And
now we got the 10 great captains. No, I know what you mean. I know what
but
you're
I
saying.
do like the dividing by 0 problem. That's fun.
Right. And that's the and we've joked about that in the past. There's the 5 great captains. There's no real criteria. What makes you a 5 great captain? Well, if you're that much of a badass to where people recognize you as a great captain, then guess what? You're a great captain. The 5, it's a moniker that Robert Jordan used as a storytelling device, which is great, and it works out. But I mean, if we're looking at the story, seriously, then it doesn't.
Yes.
Take the wind out of my sails on my 5 great captains.
Not
joke.
at all.
I did that to myself.
You're a fun person, and your jokes are also, as I said, it's fun to divide by 0 or 6 by 5 or whatever.
Or whatevs.
I do also love going sort of back to his memories. I'm going to mention this now because I doubt that it's going to be an important thing later on. But one of my favorite things that actually happens in the Wheel of Time throughout the series to Matt and specifically regarding his memories is that people are always mentioning Ardor Hawkwing. always.
Yes.
He's an absolutely incredible force that has absolutely, without a doubt, sort of left the world. I mean, he comes back a couple
Yeah.
of times thanks to the Horn of Villiers, but he has
Mhm.
left the world and is not a part of it anymore. And yet he's still
Right.
such a part of it that people talk about
Yeah.
him all the time. Um,
He's a
yes.
legend. Like these are people that, these are the heroes of
Yep.
legend.
Also, I mean, like it's also nothing to shake a stick at that he ends up with the daughter of the Nine Moons, who is very specifically supposed to be. I don't actually remember if Tuon herself is a descendant of Arder Hawkwing, or whether there's been, such a messed up dilution and whatnot of the blood that happens, that she herself isn't actually a descendant of Arder Hawkwing, or that she is. I
Right.
don't remember if they have ever specifically say one way or the other that she is
Yeah.
or is not. But again, everyone of the blood is supposed to be
Yes.
Arder Hawkwing's descendants. And so even if you're not actually, you're Arder Hawkwing's descendant. And so it does become much more important later on, because Matt is wooing in some ways and whatnot Tuon, and her whole family life is tied up to being sort of the blood of
Yes.
Arder Hawkwing. And so you get all of these
Yeah.
times in the story where Matt specifically remembers Arder Hawkwing and
Yeah.
fighting him, or fighting with him, or being at battle meetings with him, or things
What
like
what
that.
an
And
odd
so
what an odd
right?
sensation.
And so many times Matt cannot make up his mind about how he feels about Arder Hawkwing, because all of his feelings on the man are tied up in some specific memory about, like, Arder Hawkwing walks over to his just destroyed body on a battlefield and goes, "You fought well. It's time to give up." And then kills him. Or he'll be like, "I'm an under lieutenant for Arder Hawkwing, and he's the greatest thing
Yeah.
since sliced bread." And it's amazing. It's
Yeah.
so funny to see, because you
It,
never actually get that much of a thing about anybody else in the stories,
yeah.
because Matt just does not get that recurring memory about anybody
Yeah.
else as much as Arder Hawkwing, and it's
Well, and they
hilarious.
talk about Arder Hawkwing being one of the strongest
Yes.
Taviran,
Rand is the only person who is strong. Well,
who
sorry.
is
Rand
stronger.
and Luther and Telamon are the two
Yes.
Taviran that are stronger than Arder Hawkwing. Arder Hawkwing was the third most best, or the most powerful Taviran, and the only reason he wasn't as powerful as the others was because they have this just far above and beyond requirement.
Yeah. So Matt has all the memories of all the generals. One of the things we talked about with the other great captains is that these guys have led a life, spent a lifetime in
Yep.
battle, knowing their enemies, studying their enemy,
Mhm.
learning to read a chessboard 12 moves in advance. And, it goes back to what you were saying about how Matt has a deeply unfair advantage. Matt has thousands of years of lifetimes of being steeped in
Yep.
battle. Matt can outthink and outwit
Yep.
anyone. I'm sorry, no, I don't care.
He walks
Anyone.
into the room, looks at the map, and goes, "Oh, you should move your troops over
Yeah.
here like a mile." And everybody else in the room goes, "We have been arguing about whether to do that or not for 4 days. How did?" Oh, he's also right. Fuck.
Right? It's true. And not only that, but he did it in like 12
Yeah.
seconds.
Look,
Like
took
he walked
one
in, looked
look
at
at
it,
the
was like,
map and went, a mile over.
this looks pretty good. You're going to want to watch out for that, though.
Yeah.
This over here, you're going to want to watch out for this. And then everybody's like, oh my God. Like
He's right.
this. And I
He's
love
so
how everybody
right.
kind of looks at Lan, and Lan's like, yeah, he's scary.
Yeah. No, it's true.
So Matt as one of the final great captains, this actually kind of pulls a segue into one of my other favorite parts of the story is when they talk about a Heron Mark blade. And they even delve a little bit at some point in time, because there was wasn't it Davram Bashir who carried a Heron Mark blade, and he was like, yeah, but I'm not a blade master. Like, don't if you challenge me to a duel with a sword, like I can hold my own, but I promise you I'm not a blade master. And what he did was he earned it through prowess on the battlefield, who they compared it to a sword fight, a dance of the blades kind of a situation.
Yes.
And I think it was Davram Bashir.
I don't remember him specifically having that, but at the same time, I also don't specifically remember it being anyone else. So we're gonna go with Davram
maybe
right now. I'll look it up later, and if
this is one of those things where I could have done a little bit of research, huh? So a blade master, you can receive blade master status by either A, killing a blade master in hand-to-hand combat, or B, being declared a blade master by, what was it, like 5 or 6 other blade masters would have to come forth and declare you a blade master.
Yes.
And if I remember correctly, the person in question was able to obtain a Heron Mark blade because the general that they fought against also was a blade master, and because he killed the other general, defeated the other general, he assumed the role of blade master because he was able to defeat another.
Well,
blade
and if
master.
I remember
one of those
correctly, and I'm remembering this story. I am, and I believe you are correct that it was Bashir. But in the story, I'm not remembering exactly who it was, but I am remembering that he was given the other general's sword. It wasn't even a situation where he had it made. Like it wasn't like they made it for him to signify that he had earned the Heron Mark. He picks it up off the battlefield and is basically allowed to keep it because a number of people are like, no, you've earned the right to carry that around by defeating a blade master in battle, and none of us are going to we don't need it. We're not going to take it. We're not going to, because you deserve it. You are in our eyes as worthy of the blade as a blade master would be.
Right. And it's one of those things that, in my segue into this is when you start, and this is one of those last chance spoilers, last chance spoiler back outy things, because when you come to the last battle, it comes to light that the 5 captains have been compromised. A couple of them are dead at this point.
Just one.
And Matt steps up and becomes the battle master and is like, nope, okay, we're going to lose if I don't do this. And then he then begins to pull on all the memories.
Right.
And he started, okay, move pike formations over here, move archer formations over here. I need someone to go. I need a runner over here. I need someone to do this. I need someone to do. And he starts spitting out orders, man. And he is leading the battle, and he is doing this. And they talk about, who was he squaring off against? Shoot, I can't remember. It was one of the Forsaken.
Demandred. He's the one who actually has. Well, I guess it's a little hard to tell because, of course, Moradin has actually been given dominion over all of the forces of the shadow to lead them in the last battle, but he is so dead set on going ahead and facing Rand that was the thing, is he thinks he's facing Rand, the forces of the shadow. Demandred is actually the one really leading the forces of the shadow, and he's the one at their head because, of course, Moradin knows that the battle is going to be fought in Shale Ghul at the Boar.
Right.
Demandred still thinks that it's going to be fought out on the battlefield, and so it really does show this nice, interesting thing of Moradin's the one who's actually given dominion, and he goes, shh, Demandred, you go out and do that because I know where the real fight is. And Demandred goes, Bullshit. I'll go out there and actually fight the fight. And then, of course, which one's right? Moradin, of course.
Exactly.
Ishamael is so much smarter than Demandred, but oh well.
Yeah, no, and the thing is, well, the point that I was getting to is that Demandred, while on the battlefield, is kind of an idiot. He thinks he's fighting the
Yeah,
dragon,
he
and
thinks he's
he's
fighting
like,
Luz
"Whoa!"
Theron, actually, because he
And yeah, well,
doesn't
yeah,
even believe that Rand is just Rand. And I mean, like, at this point, you can
right.
argue that he's not. He has actually sort of uh, fused in
He's
some
sort of
ways
self-absorbed.
with Luz
Yeah.
Theron. He's not hearing his voice anymore, but he does actually have access to a number of his memories and things that have happened and information about people he shouldn't and ways of channeling he shouldn't. But
Yes.
he's not actually even that good on a battlefield. Like, it's funny because he's even in the other fights that they've had that he has been at the forefront of, he absolutely is like, all right, cool, I'm the most powerful channeler, so I will just do that when we need it. But if
Yes.
you guys want to go ahead and make all the tactics and whatnot, I'll stand here and learn. But you
Mm-hmm.
guys are the ones who are going to do this because I'm not that good at this.
Right. So the battle between, as it's Demandred v Matt,
Mm-hmm.
and they talk about a dance,
Yes.
and they talk about how it's sort of like a sword fight, and he's testing over here, and he's thrusting over here, and he's parrying over here, and they're moving back and forth, and Matt, and
Yes.
it was such a good passage to
It
read.
was
It was
so good.
so good to read. I loved reading it and watching as Matt was squaring off against, and again, it was squaring off against one of the
Yes.
Forsaken.
Well, and that's
Like,
one of the
these are the
coolest things is that they Robert Jordan was brilliant here, where he made it and he put it all in, very early to make it so that one person could square off against someone else who has way more knowledge than this person should have. That should be so outclassed by Demandred, it shouldn't even be funny. Any of the single great captains should be so outclassed by Demandred, it shouldn't even be funny. Especially because
right.
Luz Theron was one of the greatest captains of all time, and
Mm-hmm.
Demandred was just underneath him. And by
Yeah.
just underneath him, I don't mean, second. I mean, they were basically evenly matched. Luz Theron
Yes.
edges him out by a tiny margin. And
Yes.
so the fact that he is
And
so good, he should be able to wipe the floor with the forces of the light. But of course, again, and arguably he did also set it up in two ways where he could have had it be, okay, cool, so all four of the great captains are going to need to use all of their prowess to fight
yes.
against Demandred,
Well, and
or
that's why,
I just take them
yeah.
off the field with Grandal and build through 12 books Natrim
Yes.
Cawthon going up against Imandred with the tools necessary to make it believable.
Exactly. Exactly.
And just the one
It
general v one general is way cooler to think about and watch.
Yes, it is. And you have just this, the most beautiful, and there's even, like, as the battle progresses, Demandred's kind of like, yeah, whatever, I got this. And then you flash back and he's like, oh, okay, that was a nice little move there. Wow, good job. Okay,
Nice
I
job,
didn't
Luz
see that
Theron.
happening. Hey, someone get Grendel on the phone here. And then that you flash back to him, he's like, oh my god, what is happening right now? Okay, no, this is not cool. I cannot be losing ground like this. And then things swell back up, and then Matt's like, oh, okay,
Yes.
all right, old man, you want to play, let's do it. And they're just going back and forth. And by the end, of course, Demandred's like, he's sweating bull, he's like, what's going on? How am I getting defeated? I don't understand this is not right. What is going on? And it's such a beautiful piece of prose and poetry. I love
No,
it
it's
so
so true.
much.
And of course, again,
And
it's
it's
so funny because I mean, again, Matt does actually have a little bit of an unfair advantage because Demandred has been he's lived a number of lives only because he's been alive so long. He hasn't actually lived a number of different lives. He's lived one single life that's gone on very long and has taken a number of different facets. But like with
right.
what is being described, Matt has like overlapping memories and whatnot. He's got so
Yeah.
many different lives that he sort of has been reborn into, and they span so long and whatnot that
Yes.
he just is like, okay, cool. So I could beat Luz Theron. I can beat you, Demandred, because I've done it before.
Exactly.
I have so much
Hundreds of
information.
times.
I have so
Hundreds
much.
of
I've
times.
lost to you hundreds of times. I've beaten you hundreds of times. I've learned from my mistakes and I've built on my successes. And you are really fucking good at this. So I'm having a hard time just, you know, beating you out of hand, certainly. But in the end, I will win this fight. And of course, Matt
Yes.
basically has the war tied up before Moradin is defeated, Demandred is defeated on the battlefield, and Rand
Yes.
is back in the fight after his long and drawn out conversation with the Dark One.
Yeah, well, yes. Which that's another amazing
Oh yeah,
piece
dude.
of whew. I can't wait. I can't wait for some of this stuff.
Right?
Sorry, I'm having a bit of a
Well,
geekgasm.
I'm so as we well know, or at least, sorry, as I have talked about before, and as our listeners might know, I definitely sent in some information about myself as I am an aspiring actor, and I was hoping to play Rand in the series. Now, that did not happen. I did not actually get cast as Rand, as no one should be surprised given the fact that they already announced who is. Um, that being said, I think that Moradin would definitely, without a doubt, be the second most fun character to play in the series. So now I'm
Yes.
starting to work on that, and I've got, I think, a few years to figure that out. Seeing as how he
Well,
doesn't
that
show
depends on
up
how they want to
until
do it,
book
though.
5, I think. Book
Yeah.
6. It's either 5 or 6. And so we'll
And
see
that's the thing is
how
it
they mess with time and whatnot. And what they
yeah.
add into earlier things, and you know, whether they crunch some seasons and whatnot. Also, I mean, like,
Yeah.
this is all predicated on the fact that the show does well. And again,
Right.
I'm certainly not saying that I'm not pretty sure it is, but at the same time, there's always a chance. Also, I mean, again, Moradin, they're not going to introduce Moradin until Ishamael is dead. So
Right.
Ishamael is without a doubt going to be in the first season of the show. Now,
Yes.
whether he dies
Yeah,
in
absolutely.
season 1 or season 2 or season 3 or season 4 or whatever, depending on how they go ahead and do this, that's definitely still a question, and it's very much in flux. But I've got a
Right.
little bit of time here to try and which honestly, just the idea of, again, just putting yourself into the character. I know that this is
Yeah.
getting away from Matt for just a moment. I'm well aware. But
Are you saying you're going on a tangent?
I tried so hard. No. But just the idea, I think one of my favorite parts of the story is that Moradin, like, basically, he doesn't beat Rand, but he's got him on the ropes, and then Rand just steps into this other world, and Moradin is just standing there frozen. And I mean, again, for him, not even a second has passed. I mean, it happens immediately. But Rand has this entire just existential mind fucking like thing that happens in the space between sword strokes with him and Moradin, and just the idea of Moradin not even knowing that this is happening and just standing there being like, cool, so what am I gonna do next in this sword fight? Because I've got to plan my next move because it's about to happen. And Rand being like, all right, cool. So I just wanted to have this entire conversation with the Dark is so funny. And of course, on the other hand, I mean, like being the actor playing Morden or whatnot, it would be like, oh man, now I just like, I'm not even in that episode. Like, we have a sword fight and then it just fucking disappeared for an hour while Rand talks to an entity. Fuck this.
Yeah.
But again, it's just so,
well,
it's
it
so
was it
fun.
how I mean, really, Rand is outside the pattern. So how long does it actually say in the book how long they wait for him to come back?
Well, they don't wait any time. Again, it all happens in the span of a moment. Like literally, they describe in the
Yeah.
book that Moradin is just in the middle of the sword fight. And to him,
Right.
Rand goes from parrying something and taking a step back to parrying something else and taking another step back. And there's no time that's lost between those two things. Yet to Rand, he makes a parry and takes a step back, goes through an entire wealth of time that he is outside the pattern, and then pops back in to Moradin attacking him with a sword again. And he's like, dude, you're adorable. I just had a completely and utterly like changing experience and you are so fucked.
Right though.
And it's hilarious because of course again just like the look on Rand's face has just got to be so telling that Moradin's got to know that something happened, but of course have no idea what.
Well, and then of course they spring the trap and he's like, oh shit. So
anyway.
Yeah, it's good, but you know, but again, none of that would have been possible
without
if Matt was not able to press Demandred as he did.
100%.
None of that would have been possible. I mean, Rand never would have survived to get up to Shia
Not at all. And Land would never have been able to get to the point where he could actually have a one-on-one sword fight with Demandred. Egwene never would have gotten to the point where she could face off against Haim. I mean, again, all of these things that are sort of the iconic 1v1 battles that are happening during the last battle are
I can't believe you
all thanks to Matt. What did I do?
Yes. You gave me feels.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
I can't.
Oh man.
I can't even.
How do you think I mean literally everybody else is still alive, but how do you feel that Madeline feels?
Do you know of all the deaths in the ending there, of all the deaths, I think I took hers the hardest. And I mean, I'm saying this like from a completely sincere point right now, because she was the one she was the girl next door. She was your childhood crush who it didn't work out because it was kind of dumb that you had a crush on her anyway, but she was still a really good friend. And
it wasn't dumb. It just everything changed.
She's
when
not
the Fire
a warrior.
Nation attacked.
Right. Well,
they were 100% gonna be in love forever and married and all of that different stuff.
Yeah.
But then everything changes.
Yeah, if they never left the Two Rivers. Yeah, if they never left the Two Rivers, that was
anyway.
But
sorry,
but that's
going.
what I'm saying. She has that sort of wholesome, homegrown, hominess.
Yes.
Innocent wholesomeness about her. Even as badass as she was never a warrior. She was never a fighter. She was never someone who was going to come out and kick your ass. She was always very graceful, very majestic, and she was always very good at imposing her will on the different situations. And when that when Gareth Bryn goes into the rage and dies, and okay, cool, yeah, I get it. He's a warrior. He dies. He's got a sword. He runs into battle screaming with a sword in his hand. Of course, if he dies, fine. If he dies, he dies.
Yep.
She was not a warrior. She was, and it just that to me sunk in. It really sunk in to feel, this is a battle. This is not two armies clashing. This is the human race scratching to survive. And this is every able-bodied person needs to come out and do this. Every single person who can participate in any way needs to do this. And Egwene's right there. And she's like, I'm on the front lines. I'm going to show people how it's done. I'm going to lead people into this. And they are going to know that they have an Amarillan who is not afraid to face these problems and to face
Well,
the
and that's
shadow.
actually one of the things that I was going to say is that Egwene,
I just
I
love her so
agree
much.
so hard in terms of the fact that Egwene is not a warrior. She's not. She does
Yeah.
not pick up a sword. She does not pick up an axe. She does not fight hand to hand. And yet, literally through the entire story, from day one, when they're leaving the Two Rivers, she
Mm-hmm.
is a fighter. The day they
Yeah.
leave the Two Rivers, she convinced. Well, now, granted, I will also throw out there that Moraine wanted her to go with them because she knew about her potential and whatnot. I'm not saying that that's not a factor, but
Right.
Egwene comes into the stable and says, "You're going somewhere. I'm going," and
Mm-hmm.
everybody's like, "No, you're not. You're what?
Silly
Why would you
queen.
go home?" And she says, "No." She says, "Absolutely not. I am going with you." And from that point until
Mm-hmm.
her blaze of glory death,
Yes.
she does not stop fighting. Every
And she doesn't.
time something goes wrong in this story, I'm not going to say that not irregularly it's caused by her as well, but every issue that they get into that she is anywhere near, she is there to make sure that things go okay. And it's
Right.
incredibly impressive. And of course, again, that's
Yes.
one of the funniest things is that this actually ties into Matt really well because he is so the opposite. Literally everything about him is set up as a character. All of his talents, all of his capabilities are set up to be, oh, I am the greatest thing since sliced bread, and I'm gonna walk into these battles and
Yeah.
do and fucking
Yep.
just murder everybody, and I'm gonna walk into dice games and just take everybody's money, and I'm gonna walk into situations with women and give them a smile and always walk out on top, and all of this different stuff. And I'm certainly not gonna say that Matt doesn't take advantage of that in the books ever. He does. There are a few times where he knows that he can go get money from dice. He is that lucky and
Right.
he knows it.
Yeah.
There are times when he does flash a smile and get what he wants because he knows he can. But at the same time,
Yes.
in so many of the situations that actually matter and that come down to life and death, Matt is standing there going, my logic says no. My reason says no. My survival instinct says get the fuck out of Dodge. But my
Yes.
duty and my responsibility and my overwhelming lack of, or my overwhelming abundance of giving a shit says
Right.
I can't do that. I need to see this through. I need to follow up on this. Whereas, like, again, Egwene walks into things going, I'm gonna take care of this situation. And they both
Mm-hmm.
do a really ridiculously good job of taking care of the situation, but they walk into it with such different attitudes. You're
Yeah.
just like, how did you even
It's
come from the same village? Get out of here.
yeah. It is so true. I mean, they and it lends itself to how diverse the characters
Oh,
are,
absolutely.
and how rich and deep some of these characters are, because it's just like you said, they're from the same village, they grew up together,
Mm-hmm.
they're childhood friends. And Egwene has this sense of responsibility. She has a sense of, it needs to get done, nobody else is going to do it, so fine,
Well,
I'm
and
going to
it's
do it, I'm
overt.
going to get it done.
Like again, that's the
Yeah.
difference between Matt and Egwene is that really when it comes down to it, they both have that sense of responsibility so deeply ingrained in them. But with Egwene,
Mm-hmm.
she walks into it knowing that she has a responsibility and she takes care of that responsibility. Matt goes, responsible? Fuck. Okay, never
Yeah.
mind. It's time to be responsible.
Yeah, exactly. And they will drag him kicking and screaming to be responsible. In the end, he will recognize that it's the right
Yeah.
thing to do, and he'll even whine a little bit and be like, "Well, I would have realized it myself. You didn't have to drag me here." And everybody's going, "Yeah, right, dude. We stop.
Well, and then of
We
course,
totally had to drag
again,
you here."
in the end, they do sort of drag him regularly into these battles to go ahead and do what he needs to do.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the story, who is the person that I mean, like again, obviously the world needs Rand. Obviously, the world needs the dragon to go and actually face the Dark One. But you know who
Right.
he wouldn't have gotten there without? Matt. The whole world falls on his
Exactly.
shoulders again.
You could exactly. Exactly. And it just, I don't know, it
Uh,
just, Matt is such, we could go on and on and
we
on for
could.
hours about what a pivotal role Matt plays in the entire
Yes.
series, and being one of the main characters is, it's
Yes. And
natural.
of course, being one
But
of
I
the
mean,
ones who's very much described as a Taviran. I mean, obviously, they do talk about Rand being the strongest. And then, Matt and Perrin being strong in their own right. But, when they're around Rand being swept up in his flood and whatnot. But and so that does again give him a distinct advantage. He is Taviran. He does have these memories, all of this different stuff. But at the same time, I mean, really, when you look at the character of Matt, there is so much that you see, especially again since you get to see his perspective in so many of these chapters. You really get to see how much development Robert Jordan thought about for Matt and then actually followed through with. And he's a great character. I mean, there are a number of characters in the Wheel of Time that I think are unnecessary, that I think are bland, that I think are actually too much one way or another. Now, obviously, in almost all of those cases, I actually agree with the fact that they're necessary to be that way. But Matt is one of the most
yeah,
fascinating characters and does not fall into that camp at all. He is one of the most
yeah,
fleshed out, fun, yet like sobering characters in the whole series.
yes, yes. And despite all that, he's still relatable in the
Yes.
end.
No, and that's actually one of
You know what
the
I'm
the
saying?
things that I love about, cuz okay, so Rand is without a doubt my favorite character. He is. And part
Right.
of that is
He's
because
fantastic.
I grew up, to be a 6'4", mildly redheaded, gray blue eyed person. That there is
Right.
nothing that is absolutely a factor. But at the same time, I also just love the way that the character of Rand was written. But one of the things that's absolutely very true about Rand is that he is not the same person when he leaves the two
Right.
rivers, when he goes through all of his adventures, whether they were intentional or not, when he
Yep.
gets to the end of the story, not only is he not even in his own body, but he is not
Right.
the same man.
Yeah, he was
He gets
changed. I mean, the
dramatically changed throughout this story. You know who
well,
is
and even
actually the same person, even with all of the
it's
changes?
true.
Matt. He's one of the people who you can
Yes.
look at and just say, all of this stuff has happened to you. And you've definitely had to go through hardships and grown as far as your knowledge base on certain things and
Right.
grown, as a person in the natural course of how a person grows. But at the same time, deep
Yep.
down, you are the same person who walked out of the two rivers.
Yeah,
And I love that.
that's a really excellent point. Um he he's gone through all these changes, and you'd think that as the person who literally had chunks of his life stolen from him and replaced with a Frankenstein like patchwork quilt of random ass
Right?
memories of 1,000 lifetimes, you would think someone like that would change
Right?
dramatically. But I think that speaks to the power of the character as Matt as a character. He can go through all that and he can still be the same mischievous kid who let a badger loose on the
Yep.
village green.
Uh,
And I love it so much that, he's squaring off against the Forsaken. He's the only one who can square off one-on-one against the
yep.
Forsaken. And he's still that same kid. And after the last battle, you know what he did? I'm going to tell you what he did. He went to a tavern to flirt with a barmaid, and when they said it's Lord Matt, the great captain who saved us all, he's going to go, blood and ashes. Please just pour me a
And
drink.
call me
And they're going to go,
Matt.
you drink for free here. And he's going to go, no, I don't. Please let me pay for my damn
Yep.
ale. He doesn't want the special treatment. He doesn't want the glory or the honor. He just wants to go have a drink and play a game of dice.
Well, and I
And
have
he
to
doesn't,
admit that one of
toward the
my
end, he
favorite,
doesn't even like
right?
playing dice all that much because he always wins. And he's like, I don't even like playing dice anymore because
We're playing cards.
It's just no fun. I know I'm
God
gonna
damn it,
win.
we're playing cards.
Yeah. At least with cards, I don't really understand it, so I can't use my luck to help the game go. Oh,
Yep.
And that's just such a power. Again, it's so much integrity Matt
Yes.
has. Even in the end, he's just like, no, I'm not going to get swapped up in all the glory and the fame. I just want you guys to call me Matt.
Mhm.
Let me have a drink. Let me flirt with the cute girl over there. And I just want
Sorry,
to
Tuan.
go back to the way things were.
I'm still definitely
Well,
gonna
maybe not
flirt
after he
that girl
marries
with
Tuan.
that girl, but
Yeah. Well,
it doesn't mean
isn't there a
anything.
scene?
But I'm definitely still gonna flirt with that girl. Like it's a compulsion, and you know it.
And I loved there was a scene too, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure there's a scene too where he said something about going down to a tavern so that he could order a drink, and Tuan was like, and if anyone talks to you, I will kill them. And he's like, maybe I won't go to the tavern because the last thing I want is a cute barmaid dead because I ordered an ale from her. Tuan was like, I'm not having it.
Well, and of course, I do actually really love. I mean, again, this is just going more into just Matt as the person, which we've done plenty of, but we were supposed to keep this to a thing. But anyway,
yeah,
I know,
whatever.
Right?
Well, but it goes into who he is as a person,
Yes.
as to how he manages to command so well in the battlefield.
It's true. But I also love how I think one of the relationships that I actually appreciate the most is Matt and Tuan, because when it comes right down to it, I mean, again, there are so many other good relationships, and I'm not trying to put them down at all. There are also a handful of dog shit relationships that Gwyn and Gwyn that are just terrible and should never exist. But at the same time, Tuon and Mats is amazing for so many reasons because, of course, they actually really do, without a doubt, love
Yeah.
each other. And it all started not because they looked at each other and went, "Oh my God, look at this guy,"
Right.
or "Look at this girl." The first time Matt sees Tuon, he's like, "Wow, you have a lot of growing up to do before I would ever take you seriously as a, romantic interest. Uh, I like, you know, curvy, bigger women, and you are like a little boy. Like you remind me of
Oh,
Over." And then he hears her name or her title
yeah.
and gets reminded of this prophecy that he's been given, and he's like, "Well, shit."
And then I love how he says it
Right?
too. He's like, "Yeah, that's my bloody wife. Like, what are you talking about?" And then they all look at him like just a gasp, like,
Well, and my favorite
"Ooh."
part of it is that there are so many different reactions because, of course, again, Tuon is like, "What?" Uh,
She's like, "Huh,
yeah.
interesting."
Her maid, Selusha, is like, "How dare you?" And then all of the other people are like, "Matt, are you okay? Like what are you talking about?" And then, of course, they tell
Right?
Aegin later, and she's like, "What? Why would you say such a thing?"
Why? And he's like, "What? What did I do?" This is like one of the examples where Matt's luck does not play into
Right?
his hands in the way he thought it
No, it's so
would.
true. And again, I also love how, like, again, in that moment, one of my favorite things is just Selusha being so taken aback that anyone would say that about uh who Tuon is in their society, which is just funny to think about. Of just like there are certain people that you just can't say that kind of thing about, and it's just like,
Yeah.
it's kind of fun. But then the other
You
part of it,
can't
right?
say
Exactly.
that.
Even if you're thinking it, don't ever put it into words because you'll just die. Like, but then
Yeah.
just the idea that again, there's a lot going on in the scene. It's certainly not like Matt just has all of his wits about him and he's perfectly, you know, put together. There's a lot going on in this
Right.
scene, but I just love the idea of, again, that's such a real moment where last year someone told you that you were going to marry some name. You have no face
Yeah.
to go along with this. You have no context to go along with this. You don't even know what that means. It's not like they told you you were going to marry a queen. They told you you were going to marry a barmaid. They didn't tell you anything about this
Yeah.
person that's helpful to you. They gave you a title that you don't recognize and said that you were going to
Yeah.
marry
Well,
this
and
person. And when you finally hear that, which you've been looking for this person the whole time, because ever since every girl you're ever with, you say, "Hey, does this title mean anything to you?" And they all go, "What? Stop it. Come back to bed." Like,
I loved the maiden, the
yes.
Fardaris Mai he was with for a while, where he asks her, "Are you sure the
And she's
daughter of
like,
nine
"Stop
moons?" And she turns
asking.
around, and she goes, "Ha! I am not gonna marry
Right?
you." She's like, "Whatever, bro. We got a good thing going. We got some good friends with
Yeah.
benefits action going on here. Why do you want to mess
Yeah.
that up?"
Also, I'm going to try to kill you later. So we really probably shouldn't get married.
Yeah, yeah. That might not work out, and it
It didn't.
didn't.
But anyway, so again, I just
Such to dark
love
friends. Six simp to dark
Six
friends.
Semper Dark Friends.
Yeah, what
Yeah,
John Wilkes
Six
Booth
Semper
said. He said
Tyrannus.
six
Oh,
semper
Six Semper
tyrannis.
Dark
So you
Friends.
could say six
Six
semper
Semper
dark
Shadow.
friends. Six semper shadow.
I like it.
Something like
Um,
that. Latin, something dark speak.
but yeah, so I love how in that scene again, finally he actually hears someone else say the words he's been waiting to hear for
And it's
over a year,
not.
and he goes, Are you fucking kidding me? And then of course again they do actually really come to this just mutual respect thing at first, because Tuon really
Yeah.
does see that he is incredibly capable, and he looks at her and goes, oh wow, I'm very much misjudged you. And then later on they
Yeah.
do actually really have this deep connection that they talk
Yeah,
about
she
and really form later.
yeah, she first things first, as she comes to admire him a little bit more, cuz I mean, honestly, how could you
Right?
not? I mean, anybody near Matt, he pulls people, obviously he's got his Taviran nature going on,
But
but
just his
he
personality,
pulls
yeah.
people in. He pulls people in. People like him. He's a likable
Mhm.
guy, but at the same time he knows what he's
Yep.
doing. And he says over and over and over again, people who are real, people who are genuine, and people who are sincere, those are the
Yep.
leaders. Those are the good, thing. And he I think he even like laughs at Perrin at some point in time in the series where he's like, "Yeah, you're being way too sincere right now. So yeah, of course people are going to be following you." I feel like I might have made that up, but I feel like I remember reading that somewhere where he's just teasing parents
Yeah.
relentlessly. But if it didn't actually
It
happen in the
could.
book, because I
It
got
did
pointed out,
happen.
on the Discord app that I feel like maybe I make things up, and that's okay because I do. But I feel like if I make something up, I feel like at least it's very in
Yes.
character.
Well, no, and I love that I mean this podcasts like this and excuse me, thoughts like this and whatnot are the Pottermore of this series. And of course, there will be so much
Exact.
more of
Yes.
them that happen after more people are exposed to the series. But I just imagining what characters would do in certain situations that don't actually come up in the book, but easily could, is so much
Right.
fun. Like that's great. So even if it didn't happen, I'm gonna say it's canon now.
You are so sweet. Thank you so
And if it
much,
did happen, then
Randall Thor's awkward older brother.
obviously it's canon.
Obviously, of course. No, but I just he is so down to earth, so sincere, and he gets all of uh the legendary status that he
Indeed.
earns. I mean, and it's just really great. And Tuon, as she learns more about this mysterious man who on the first day she met him declared his marriage vows to her,
It was
she's
not the
like,
first day they met.
well,
Don't do that. You know it wasn't the first day they met. It
well
was many
I'm
many
not
days
speaking
later. But
literally.
yes,
I'm not speaking literally the first day.
but
I'm
the day
saying,
he kidnaps
you
her,
meet
he
someone,
tells her that she's his
you
wife. Yeah, that's fun.
yeah, you get your first impression of someone, and then you spend the first couple days with them where you're on your best behavior. You want to be nice to them so that they stick around. And it's my metaphor there was meant as a, this is before they start to get to know each other and start to, really be themselves around
Correct.
each
Up
other.
until this point, they've been
And then he's like,
very courtly and whatnot because Matt
yes.
doesn't know how to act. I mean, again, it doesn't help that uh Tuon's forces have the city
Yes.
that ran or that Matt is trapped in uh under
Yeah.
lock and key. I mean,
That
he's not
makes it
under lock and
difficult.
key, but the city kind of is. And of course, Tylin is making sure that Matt is kind of under lock and key. I do also
Yes.
love that again.
Good
One of
times.
my favorite moments for the two of them is, you know what? No, I'm gonna save that one. I'm thinking that maybe now that I'm
Ooh.
thinking about it, we did just talk about them a little bit, and we might skip them, and I'll throw it in at some point later. But you know what would be fun? I think it would be fun if we actually just went ahead and did a series on Wheel of Time relationships. So I don't know. We'll think
I
about
think
it.
that'd be
We'll think
great.
about it. And
We'll put that to, hey, all of our
well, not
Patreonians
just Patreons.
and
Yeah, just everybody.
everybody in our Discord chat, everybody who's listening right now, shoot us a comment on what is it? We're on YouTube, we're on Podbean. Shoot us a comment on YouTube, shoot us a comment in Discord. If you're not on our Discord app, you should be in our
Indeed.
Discord channel because it's a lot of
Pop
fun
in
in
and say
there.
hi on our Twitter. Also, sorry, just to make sure that I don't forget to do this, shout out to a couple of people. LF on Twitter sent us a message saying that we should do Matt Cawthon as the last of the five great captains after we had already planned to do it. So good on you for going ahead and thinking ahead and going ahead and making suggestions. Those are super helpful. Now in this case, as I said, we were literally from the beginning, we were like, all right, cool. So we're going to do the five great captains and then Matt. So we were already on that one, but we do love suggestions. So please give them. And then in our Discord, there was also another person who actually called it that was what we were going to be doing, and it was Smack 5075, I believe. That went ahead and said that we should do Matt, or that they thought that what we were going to do as the surprise. Sorry, after last episode,
Oh,
they
that's
said
right.
as the in answer to the question of what the surprise might be. They said that it was going to be Matt as the last great captain. So shout out to you guys for you could not have been more right. That's exactly what was happening.
On the
Yes.
ball.
Again,
Well done.
if anybody else besides, LF on Twitter has suggestions for what we should do in the future, there are certainly some that we can't do. There are certainly some that I don't necessarily think that I personally am knowledgeable enough to do. I don't know about Andrew and Josh, but there are so many others that we would absolutely be interested in doing and happy to go ahead and do for you guys. So give us a shout out anywhere on Twitter, Podbean, email, Discord, all of the places. Let us know how we're doing first and foremost, as we always say, but truly mean. And then also, if there's something you want to see, please. We are certainly not running out of any of ideas anytime soon, but we would love to go ahead and do some that means something to you guys. So let us know.
It's true. I mean, anybody who's read the books, anybody who's familiar with the story knows that this is such a big world, and there are so many rabbit holes to get lost down, and that's what we do as podcasters. We go down rabbit holes. As we said in the previous thing, our tangents are the funny bits, and the show the story of the Wheel of Time is the mortar that holds our tangents together. And some episodes are more tangenty than others. This one's been
this one's definitely been on subject the whole time. Now, granted, we have gotten off of
because Matt's just
right. No,
cool.
It's true. And like one of the cool things is that there are so many anecdotes that you can sort of go off on a tangent that also still involve Matt. So, like, to be fair, again, it's not even that we've really gone on a whole lot of tangents. We've just brought to the forefront a number of Matrim's fun parts. I phrased that incredibly terribly, and I apologize to everyone. But what I said was accurate. I just could have, Mom, phrasing.
Hashtag phrasing.
Anyway. Lana.
Oh, shout out to, what is it? Wheel of Time phrasing.
Is there
a Twitter channel?
Oh, no.
What phrasing? And they're hilarious.
Awesome.
Yes, it is. It is at WOT phrasing. They're pretty awesome. So their last tweet at this point in time, their last tweet is a quote from Moiraine. Like trying to juggle 3 of Tom's colored balls one-handed and blindfolded.
I didn't know Tom had 3 balls.
All right. Apparently he's got 3 colored balls.
Whoa, 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 whoa. It is 2019.
What year
They're
is
called
this?
African American balls, sir. Sorry.
Hey, I'm just quoting
indeed.
the book, okay? I'm just quoting the book.
No, but yeah.
The next one is Nynaeve had what Linny would have called a hard patch to hoe.
Yes. Yes. I remember actually reading that one recently.
One.
Actually, sorry, I take that back.
Let's see.
I did actually read
Ooh.
through the Wheel of Time the first time I did it. And then I did a reread through the second time. The third time I did it, I listened to all of them. Then I read it again. Now I'm listening to all of them again. So I think I'm on my 5th time through the Wheel of Time. But 3 of those have been in word, and 2 of them have been in verbal. So
excellent. Hey, you know what? However you get it, honestly,
well,
it
also
doesn't matter. Just get in there and get it.
Could not agree more. Also, I have to admit, I actually really appreciate doing both, because at first I didn't think I was going to do the audiobooks at all. Because, like, while I did grow up a little on audiobooks, because my family would take very long car trips, we literally drove back from San Jose to Chicago, where I was born, every Christmas for a number of years. And so we were in the car for, like, give or take 4 days.
2
on the way there and 2 on the way back. And so we listened to a lot of audiobooks. It is definitely one of the ways I remember intaking all of the Harry Potter books, for example. And really, they are incredibly helpful both mediums are very helpful to go ahead and give you information of some degree or another. Because on one hand, actually reading the words helps you spell them, just for starters, and allows you to go ahead and see a number of correlations that you wouldn't necessarily make as it's being told to you. However, on the other hand, Michael Kramer and Kate Redding have done a great job of figuring out the vast majority of the pronunciations. And even though on occasion they do fall into the problem of not being consistent with each other or with previous books, they do a great job in those. And so actually just listening to them give the reader a little bit more of an idea of how things are pronounced is super helpful. And of course, again, it's also something that you can do while doing other things, which is super helpful, which is, of course, why audiobooks exist.
Right. Of course.
Anyway.
Of course.
But.
Of course, it's true.
This, I think that actually concludes our topic of Matt. We did not talk about every battle he's ever been in. We actually did skip over, and we are well aware that we skipped over his specific planning of the attack on Ilion. We did actually talk about that with Davram Bashir, and so I didn't necessarily think that it was incredibly important to rehash, as well as, Matt is very much involved in the tactics used for that, but then he fucks off to Abu Dhar, and doesn't actually end up seeing it through to fruition. But we are aware that there are a number of other battles and a number of other things that Matt is involved in. If there was one that you really wanted us to talk about and we missed it, please let us know, and we'll absolutely pop in and talk about it a little on another episode. But as for now, I think that we hit all of the major things about Matt as it pertains to his great captainness. As well as quite a number of things that don't.
Indeed. Well, and that's kind of the thing, right? That's the focus of tonight is who Matt was in relation to his life as a
Yes.
great captain. And as we established, he's the same person who left the Two Rivers. But so when we do probably going to end up doing the Taviran series as
Mm-hmm.
well. But when we do him as a Taviran, there is going to be some
Definitely.
overlap, obviously, because it's the same person. But we really wanted to kind of focus on, Matt as one of the great captains, because if anyone has ever distinguished themselves as a great captain so hard, it was
Yes.
Matt. And I will fight
Oh,
you if you think differently.
I will stand in the back and cheer you on.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you. You know what? You know what? You're awesome. Thank you.
No, no,
I'm so happy to have you in my
no,
corner.
you.
No, you.
No,
No,
you hang up.
you.
No, but
No,
no,
you
it's
hang up.
it's
Stop
super
it.
good. Again, cannot say enough good things about Matt. He does do some questionable things through the books, but overall, he is one of the best people as far as the Wheel of Time is concerned. So, again, awesome dude, all of that good stuff.
Awesome.
But this concludes another exciting episode of the Black Tower podcast, a Wheel of Time podcast. Again, we talked about it a little earlier, but if you have any feedback for us at all, please feel free to find us on Twitter at TowerPod. That's the handle, or you can look up Black Tower Podcast. You can look us up on Podbean if you are listening to this on something that you think is a less than stellar app to listen to podcasts. I can tell you with confidence that Podbean is a good one, so you might want to make the switch. If you have a one that's good, then don't worry about it. But you can find our links and whatnot on Podbean as well. And then, as always, on our Discord channel as well. If you don't have an invite to that or can't find it, please give us a shout out on any of the other ones. We'll be happy to invite you. But until next week, when I believe next week is actually our next book review, because we do those at the end of the month every month. So next week should be
Mm-hmm.
our book review on the next book in the series. So definitely tune in for
Right.
that one. But until then, I have been Daniel.
And I have been drinking this entire time.
That was moist, everyone.
Also, I am moist. And I have been Josh. Thank you so much for listening. As we discussed, Matt, he's awesome, and you're awesome for listening to us. Thank you so much, and we will talk to you next time.
Take care.